despite the dizzying pace of change of the last few days. A reminder that their objective has not yet been achieved, and of the many that have already paid the ultimate price. On Sunday morning, Parliament met in a week in which it had voted to remove the president and release a major opposition leader from jail. Ukraine and the world is watching. The Speaker says that everyone will have a chance to make a proposal. However, he says, the whole of Ukraine is expecting decisions from the Parliament, and it's time to make those decisions. The Parliament has now voted to temporarily hand over the duties of the President to the Speaker. President Viktor Yanukovych's exact whereabouts are not clear, even to the opposition.
Millions of Ukrainians want to know where is Yanukovych and try to find him. He disappeared. President of Ukraine disappeared. That's why we have to elect a new one.
Viktor Yanukovych rejects all this. He says the Parliament doesn't have the right to remove him, and he still has the support of large numbers of Ukrainians, particularly in the east, and probably of Russia. James Cobnell, BBC News.
Well, Parliament is sitting and things are moving very quickly here, and that is exactly what people in Independence Square want. Let's just take you live to the Parliament building. A majority of MPs sitting there now. They have just voted to oust the Foreign Minister. Also arrest warrants for the Prosecutor General and the Revenues Minister as well. As I said, they have reintroduced now that 2004 Constitution, which strips any future president of the powers that had been amassed by Viktor Yanukovych since he came into power. Yulia Tymoshenko, the opposition leader, has said this morning that she doesn't necessarily want to become president, although her deputy, the Speaker of the Parliament, Alexander Turchinov, now assumes presidential powers before elections to be held in May. We've also been inside the President Yanukovych's residence on the outskirts of Kiev, and Parliament has voted to nationalise that residence. People struck here by the opulence of the building and the grounds. It has a private zoo and a boxing ring. Members of the public and the press were shown around there yesterday, but not inside. But that building will be nationalised. People are still unaware of where the former President Yanukovych is, apart from the fact that he is in the east of the country. Now, that is traditionally his heartland. But there are questions there as well today about a need for change. Daniel Sanford is in Kharkiv, which is where we think the President recorded his address yesterday.
Yesterday, the city of Kharkiv is boiling with political discussions. This is traditionally a region that looks towards Russia. We're not far from the Russian border here. They've still got a Lenin statue here, of which they're very proud. Everybody here speaks the Russian language, so you would think that here people would be quite against events in Kiev and against what has been happening in terms of President Yanukovych fleeing office. Well, things are a little bit more complicated than that. This crowd here are broadly against the new government, and in particular they're here today to defend the Lenin statue, which they're worried that those supporters of the new government will come and rip down. But they're not necessarily all supporters of President Yanukovych, because many people feel that he allowed the problems of the last 3 months. They allowed the country to descend into the chaos that it now finds itself in. At the other end of the street there is the governor's office, the office of Mikhail Dobkin, the very, very pro-Russian governor. But he's not in his office today. In fact, outside his office are the supporters of the new government. The anti-Yanukovych crowd are there trying to stop him coming to work, and in fact nobody knows where he is. He hasn't been seen since yesterday, and there are even rumours that he may have fled. So in Kharkiv you can't say that everybody's on one side or everybody's on the other, but one thing you can say is that political discussions are hot today, and there are lots of really quite vehement arguments going on between the two sides.
So uncertainty still for Ukraine as a united country, but certainly here in Kiev, and in the West, people are wanting to move as quickly as possible to make sure there is no power, there is no security, there is no political vacuum, so that this country can rebuild and prepare itself for the years ahead.
Tim Wilcox there in Kiev. Well, to other news now. At least 20 soldiers from the Afghan National Army have been killed in eastern Afghanistan. Gunmen opened fire on a checkpoint in Kunar province near the Pakistan border, and there are reports that gun battles